Me?
Are you still as tired as you were last week?
A little bit less.
Mm-hmm. Have you been sleeping better or just been less busy?
I've been sleeping better. I have not crashed really hard this week. I've crashed slightly the other night. But I saw it coming because I was in bed with Mary and I said, I'm getting really sleepy. And then I fell asleep. Yeah. I didn't brush my teeth or anything again because
some people react to I'm gonna faint. They're just warning. Uh-oh.
Yeah, the Glenn Beck guy.
Yeah,
he's my favorite fainter ever. Who? He's so good. There's a guy who fainted on Glenn Beck's show once, and he's literally him, and it's on when he was on Fox News.
Yeah,
and Glenn Beck is trying to present him one of his crazy ideas or whatever, right. And this guy's listening to him, and you can see him sort of
wavering.
Yeah, and he starts whispering. He goes, "I'm gonna pass out. I'm gonna pass out." And Glenn Beck doesn't hear him. He's and then he's like, wait, what? He's like, I'm passing out. And as he starts to fall over, he just goes, gone. And he falls into the floor. And he's like, oh, God.
What caused that?
I guess he just had a condition. He was fine if, a moment later.
That's hilarious.
But I'm passing out.
As an adult, I found out that my dad is highly susceptible to passing out.
Yeah?
He's passed out so many times in his life. I've passed out 0 times in my life.
I've never passed out.
I've never passed out.
Yeah.
I get blood a lot. I've had a lot of blood taken because of illness. Yeah, never passed out. My dad passed out. He passed out of the top of stairs at some point. Ooh. Yeah, and he called to my brother. He's like, I'm gonna pass out or something. My brother was like, what? And he came downstairs and Dad was at the bottom of the stairs. And that happened years and years ago, and I didn't find out about it until not that long ago.
Welcome once again to Noah Snark, where 2 former religious types and current snarks take a look at religious media on its own terms.
My name's Hillary.
And I am Josh, a.k.a. the perfect Kirk Smirk.
Yes, you are. You can do that Kirk Smirk.
I don't know if that's an insult.
Slap it off your face.
I don't know if that's an insult or a compliment.
No, I think you could do an impression of him. I don't think it's who you are.
Yeah, that's fair. So before we begin, and this is a good time to ask this, do you have anything you want to talk about as far as hits and misses goes?
Actually, surprisingly, no.
Yeah?
I don't think.
I feel like there was a very minor one for me.
Go.
In the Way of the Master, I said shame shit. When I was talking about Ray Comfort's little shtick.
Yeah.
I was trying to say same shit.
No, I know. I called you out the first time.
Right, but we miss the multitude of possibilities for shame shit. Because he's shaming them. We are ashamed of him.
You accidentally made a very astute
description of Kirk and Ray's entire approach to evangelism.
Right, his same old shit is shame shit.
Right.
Yeah, his shit is about shame. So
I just wanted to say...
You're right, there were layers to that. It was hilarious.
We got one of the layers, but we missed the cascade of layers.
True, yeah. We really should have been paying better attention to ourselves.
But that's all.
Yeah, no. I definitely noted that as well.
Hillary, let's talk about what we are doing today.
Okay, we are doing... I almost called it the fireplace. It's not the fireplace, it's a campfire.
It's called the Campfire. There is as I explained last week, there is a website called The Courage. And on that website, there is a little Kirk's Korner where he does things called the Campfire.
Once again, the missed opportunity for the Kirk's Korner being spelled with a K.
Yeah.
Kirk's Christian Corner, KKK.
No.
Yep.
No.
That's the rudest thing we've said.
They would disavow that, I'm sure.
Yeah, like the president. Some of them, there are some good guys.
No, I'm repudiating your statement.
They're not all bad.
But the Campfire is Kirk's little section of this website. Sets up a campfire in a backyard. No, not his backyard.
It is his backyard.
He says it is. I don't believe him for a second.
I think it is.
But it's at least...
Whose do you think it is?
I don't know.
I think it's definitely his.
Okay, maybe it's his. But
why would he bring his dogs to somebody else's backyard?
Because why would he pretend that we're having an actual conversation? Why would he do this at all?
That's why everybody does to the camera things.
You don't have to.
No, it's his house. There's no doubt.
Okay. Hillary has no doubt it's his house, so let's say it's his house.
Okay.
And it's basically just a collection of really short videos about a wide range of topics, including, today, disciplining your children, Kirk's personal memories, why Kirk thinks you should vote, and then blah, blah, blah. There's that's 3 topics. We did 9.
Right.
So as usual...
We did 9, but they're only maximum 10 minutes each.
Yeah.
So...
10 minutes was the longest.
This is not going to be a 3-hour episode.
No. And as usual, he's presenting to an audience that he assumes is sympathetic, so there's a lot of we and us, and a lot of assuming that we believe the same...
like he always does.
Basic nonsense that Kirk does. And so, really quick, before we begin officially, describe it in 1 sentence.
I did do this. I put, let's see. In 1 sentence, I'd say Kirk Cameron shows off his outdoor space while doling out surprisingly coherent advice.
I wrote, a very strange exercise in narcissism.
Definitely narcissism, but he didn't sound like a lunatic this time.
A lot of it was surprisingly cogent.
Yeah, no, and not just that. It's actually, I'm like, okay, take the evangelism out of it, and it's actually some pretty good advice.
Yeah, it's not so
Some
bad.
of it was good advice.
Well, let's go through in order of the ones I sent you, because I did send you an email.
Right.
We're going to start with video the first. Why your spouse is more important than your children.
Yeah.
And I have to say, before we start, this one did not come out as gross as I thought it was going to.
Honestly, this whole thing surprised me. We'll talk about it more as we go, but I was just like, yeah, all right. What? I'm listening to him speak to me, and I'm not angry.
And a lot of these videos have this weird opening where he just talks about, completely nothing for a minute.
Yeah.
And then he moves on to what he's actually talking about.
Right.
But, I mean, it works. Kirk
You're also
Cameron
missing the most important part. Dogs are involved.
Dogs are involved. I never talked about the dogs because I
talk so much about the dogs.
Let's talk about the dogs.
No, we can talk about them as we go because they're the best.
Well, in the video about why your spouse is more important than your children, Kirk tells a charming tale of hanging out with his daughter at a coffee shop. When a woman comes by and asks his daughter a question, I guess she's polling the coffee shop to figure out the answer.
It was because she asked what they were doing in town, and they explained that he was in town.
Oh, she recognized him.
Right, and his daughter explained that they were there for a conference on, I don't know, relationships and parenting or something like that, and the woman asked this question. Yeah.
Who do you think should come first, your husband or your kids? And Kirk's daughter responds perfectly, in his opinion, and she says it's supposed to be God first, then your husband, then your kids.
Yeah.
And he then goes on to explain why he thinks that this is a priority. Number 1. Kirk knows that kids are really just playing a long game of follow the leader. So by the time they get married and they want to do marriage the same way their parents did, or they've learned from their parents not to do it the way they did.
Right.
Either way, they take after your example, and so you want your spouse to be your priority to show your kids the same thing.
Yeah, I support that.
And honestly, he said that right away, and like you, I was like, that's...
correct.
Not bad.
And then even he uses an analogy that actually makes sense.
Which one was it?
Would you consider the foundation or the roof more important?
Oh,
and it's like, well, they're both very important, but without the foundation, there's nothing for the roof to stand on, or something like that. Like, the roof would just fall apart. Like, that... Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Holy crap, that made sense. I'm not used to him making sense, Josh.
And that was towards the end of it. But before that, he does say he doesn't want his kids to have to Google how to trust God, or how to trust my spouse when I feel betrayed. He just wants them to know how to do these things by watching him with his own wife.
Yeah.
In his own marriage.
Yeah.
And then,
teach by doing.
Right. And then, like you said, he makes the analogy of the foundation.
Yeah.
If your family's a house, your marriage is the foundation of the house.
Right.
Your kids are the roof. So you build the foundation first.
Yeah.
And put a nice roof on top.
Essentially, yeah.
Yeah, more or less.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm taking it a little literally, but
yeah, but
you should throw your children on top of your bodies.
Yeah, definitely use them as shields.
You should, yes, you should.
Your children are human shields. You should raise them.
In a match.
Raise them. I'm sorry, that was so funny to me. I'm gonna keep drinking beer.
Raise the roof of your kids.
Your kids are the roof. Raise the roof.
In the event that you're all in danger,
yeah, use
your children as human shields, because if you protect your spouse, you can make more. And build a nice foundation.
You can start all over.
You can start all over.
Right.
And technically, you'll learn from your old mistakes.
It's true.
So what I think I'm saying is you should eliminate your first generation of kids.
Right.
He also points out that if we don't prioritize marriage like we should, something else is going to take the place of that prioritization, whether it be sports or cars or something like that. And this is one part, at least, where I was like, your kids?
Yeah.
Like,
I don't even remember that part.
I'm not really judging your answer.
Right.
I'm just saying, like, something has to take place. Maybe your children could take place. If you insist that something is, it could be your kids, which is
it's not
good.
a bad idea. Hey.
Hey.
Maybe you could do this father
Maybe
thing.
you could just be a better parent.
There's that option.
And I'm not judging if you, again, I don't care if you choose kids or husband or kids and what, I don't care at all. It doesn't matter to me.
Right.
But I'm just, it's not, you don't necessarily have to fill the gap with gambling.
Not having kids doesn't mean that you,
Not having your marriage at the top of your priority list doesn't mean it's gonna become
doesn't mean you're now
drugs.
a drug addict. Yeah.
It's weird, we both went there.
That is exactly where we both went.
But yeah, so we're moving on to video the second. This one's about disciplining your children.
Yes.
And Kirk initially goes through a bunch of pointless examples of how ill-behaved children can be in an attempt to point out that discipline is important. You know, he talks about how kids, I don't know, I didn't write them down apparently because I found them unimportant. But it's just examples. They can be spoiled, they can be bratty, they can be...
He loves listing things.
Kirk is a lister and a half.
Yes.
So he continues further to explain that discipline, he makes another analogy about athletics.
Mm-hmm.
And he says discipline is important to athletes because it makes them the best of the best, and it also applies to children. Because like athletes need to train in agility and stamina and learning plays and stuff like that, children have to be trained in character. You know, making the most of their gifts.
Right. Kindness.
Self-control.
Yeah.
Honoring God, helping others, all that stuff.
Yeah, I was like, go, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, Kirk.
Which is fair.
You're right.
So he then asks the question, what about the spanking part of discipline, you ask? And he promotes a book instead, completely circumventing the question.
He did circumvent the question.
Which makes me assume that he's a strong yes, beat the shit out of those kids, you pussy.
I was spanked like twice. My parents were not good at punishment.
I was beaten regularly.
It's not funny, it's just the way you said it. So we had the same childhood. It's cool.
Yeah, we nailed it.
That's how we're such great people.
But he literally never actually answers the question, even though he's the one that brought it up. But he does keep emphasizing how important it is to discipline your kids, and how sometimes discipline hurts, but it is ultimately worth it.
That's where that's him admitting the spanking.
So I feel completely comfortable saying that Kirk thinks you should beat your kids.
Yeah.
And I know, like, he's gonna pretend that spanking them is not the same as beating them. Yeah. But he's wrong, and if you agree with him, you're wrong.
I think my parents just, like, tried spanking, and I don't think they enjoyed it. Right. And, like, And
only one of my parents was the ones.
They grounded me once, but my mom didn't know how to ground. So, like, she said I was grounded. I had to stay in my room. My room was my favorite place for me to be. So I'm like, that's where I was going anyway.
Like,
and then she left to go shopping. I'm like, now nobody's here to enforce this. I'm going to go get some cookies.
All the cookies for me.
Yeah, she took my brother and they went grocery shopping or something. I'm like, this is the best day ever.
That's funny. And your brother wasn't even around to snitch on you.
Yeah, there was nothing. It was just me alone in the house, which is my favorite thing. I loved having the house alone as a kid.
Yeah, that's pretty great.
I've always been the person who would prefer to be alone.
Yeah. But let's be clear.
Yeah.
This is the official position of this podcast, I think.
Go.
Don't beat your kids, and that includes spanking them.
You really should have talked to me first because we disagree once again. No, I'm just kidding. I don't think there's...
Spanking is not conducive.
Right. I understand, and there is a difference between beating and spanking.
There is. But like, either way, you're purposefully hitting your kids.
Right.
I'm not saying that no one gets upset and slaps their kids sometimes.
Right. Or like, even I don't think you should be jailed for spanking your kid or anything like that. Yeah. I just think it's pretty much been proven that it's not really effective.
Right.
There are more effective things for punishment or whatever. If you ask
actual professionals and psychologists, they will tell you that there is either a neutral or harmful effect to spanking. Mm-hmm. It's not a question. And, you know, sometimes your kids really piss you off and you just, like, you thump them or something. Yeah. You pinch them.
Just always keep a rolled up newspaper in your back pocket. Just thwap them on the head.
I get that these things happen, But what you should do is realize that it's not appropriate, just like it's not appropriate for adults.
Right.
And if you were to accidentally slap a friend or like react really poorly to them scaring you,
right,
they apologize for scaring you and then you apologize for hitting them.
Yeah.
Feel like, oh,
that's a good point.
Sorry, I shouldn't have done that.
Yes.
It was just a reaction.
You did trigger me.
Right. And the same applies to your kids.
Right.
If you have a formal plan to get them in a room and spank them, that's crazier to me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, well, get ready, because I'm going to beat the shit out of you in a
It's
second.
like my grandma was, she always talked about when she was a kid, she had, her mom would make her go pick out her own switch from, the yard to beat her with. I'm like, jeepers, creepers.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Mama, you alright?
Like, if it's...
That's not normal.
There's a reason in law that if you have done something violent or criminal in the heat of the moment, that is a different defense from I planned it for days,
crime of
weeks.
passion.
Right. Crime of passion is a thing.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying, if you leave your kids a note, I'm going to spank you when I get home, that's more violent and cruel than just accidentally.
You're right. Yeah, it's whapping.
Okay. I spent a lot of time on that, but I
really did. For someone who doesn't want kids and hates them.
Because you shouldn't be hitting your kids.
I agree with you.
On purpose.
On purpose. Yeah, she accidentally hit them occasionally.
Obviously, yeah, we're good. I'm fine with that.
Okay.
Video trace. Is it okay to talk about Santa Claus?
Video trace took me a second. Like, is that what it was called?
No.
Okay, I'm
just numbering the ones for ghosts.
I'm so stupid today. Sorry.
So the first thing Kirk tells us to do is to be very quiet because his dog is hoping to catch squirrels.
Boy, I am in love with this dog. And because this dog, and this tells you how much I love dogs, the dog made Kirk Cameron more attractive to me. His relationship with animals. Yeah. I'm like, he looks buffer than usual. He's really filling out that polo shirt.
You've been working out?
Yeah. And this dog, his name is Bodhi, and he's a German Shepherd.
Yeah, he is.
Oh, he's such a good dog. Anyway.
But because we're supposed to be quiet, the video's over. Boop. Oh, no, I guess not. Okay. Well, Kirk continues talking, ruining his dog's squirrel hunt. And he's talking about whether it's fine to tell kids about Santa Claus. And we can comfortably skip over most of this because what he really does is
list Christmas things again.
He does his Saving Christmas shtick where he talks about, how Santa really was.
He loves snow. He loves hot cocoa.
He does actually go through how much he loves Christmas again.
This is also where we find out that moment where I thought he might be more attractive is completely destroyed by him admitting that sometimes he listens to Christmas music before Halloween, which is satanic.
Yeah, that's an actual sin.
That is... Actually, I think you're legally allowed to murder someone who's listening to Christmas music before Halloween.
So Kirk talks about how much he loves Christmas. He lists more things he loves. He thinks of it as second Thanksgiving. And, of course, Kirk would love the shittiest holiday.
Of course he would. And he just, like everybody else, just mentions all the food. Like, you can eat that food at any time.
But
you don't need to be celebrating the destruction of an entire people.
Right. He doesn't actually talk about the history of it.
No.
Of course, I guarantee he would have a revisionist version of it anyway.
100%, but go on.
Like I said before, Kirk doesn't gloss over the fact that he made the worst movie of 2014, and so he basically recounts the same story he told about Santa in that movie. If you didn't hear that episode, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Why are you here? Why are you skipping it?
Yeah.
How are you going to save Christmas otherwise?
I'm personally insulted.
See? Hillary is personally insulted.
I'm upset.
But... basically, St. Nicholas, who was the basis for Santa, was super crazy Christian and even beat up a guy for being blasphemous at the Council of Nicaea. So, of course, Santa is a great representative for Jesus, and you can therefore talk to your kids about him because he loves Jesus, and your kids do too.
Yep.
Basically.
Sure. Okay.
Whatever. Let's move on to Video Quattro.
Okay. That means 4.
Should I get my child a cell phone?
Are you asking me?
I don't know. I was just
if you're talking about Molly or Nugget, then no, they would not be responsible.
I was taking a dramatic pause. Before it started playing, I realized that this one was longer than the others. It was over 7 minutes. And I wanted to die because, boy, do I not care if Kirk thinks you should get your kid a cell phone.
Although I do agree with him. Again, every episode, every single one of these clips, I was waiting to be like, fuck you. And pretty much all of it's reasonable, and I consider this one reasonable as well. I also don't care. But At least he wasn't talking nonsense.
Yeah. But we start with Kirk playing his Native American bass flute. Because
I love it. I laughed so hard at the opening. He's
playing Amazing Grace.
He's playing Amazing Grace on this gigantic flute with this stupid face to his dog, which this is where we get introduced to the dachshund, right? Is this the first one the dachshund's in?
I don't know. Maybe.
Lila.
Yeah.
Is precious.
Yeah. He opens the video holding Lila.
Yeah, Lila's in several of the episodes. I just don't remember which one. Which one?
Dachshunds are adorable.
Dachshunds are adorable.
And so Kirk is playing his Native American bass flute because what he really wants to do is show off his wide variety of skills in the hope that some agent will see this video and maybe pay him to do some acting. Let's be clear, that's what's really happening.
Excellent theory.
But we're moving on to the question at hand. Should kids have cell phones, and if so, when? And he tells a story about how they got all of their kids' cell phones. Apparently they have 6 kids. He said it before.
Pro-technology.
Yeah. And they're pro-technology. And their kids quickly devolved into zombies who were obsessed with their cell phones and couldn't get off of them.
Right.
So Kirk interviewed experts, and of course a minister, the best kind of expert.
Yeah, his favorite expert.
About cell phones to find the right answers. He ultimately concludes that yes, you should give your kids a cell phone. But he's got 5 things you should consider before you do.
Yeah.
But he points out, really, they're going to get their hands on one eventually anyway.
Right.
So you may as well go ahead and give it to them.
Pretending that this technology doesn't exist
is not going to help you.
It's not going to help. Like, they're going to just be behind
right.
their whole lives. Yeah.
Right.
They need to know computers.
And if you give them a cell phone, you can do it on your terms instead of someone else giving them one on their terms.
Which I agree with.
Yeah. So here are the 5 principles that he wants you to follow when you're thinking about this sort of thing. He says, 1, pray. Mm-hmm. 2, do your research.
Yes.
3, consider the maturity level of your child.
Yes. I was really glad he said that.
4, talk to your child.
Also good.
Kirk is actually not so bad at this. And then 5, he makes sure to say, make sure you have the courage you need to enforce the boundaries that you set up.
Yes.
That's actually really good.
All of it's really good.
Yeah, except for praying, which is useless.
Well, yeah, but also it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt.
So,
yeah, so
whatever.
I'm not like, who are you going to help with that? It's just like...
You're a bad dad. You pray?
Yeah, you're at most wasting a few minutes of your time.
Right, like that's just our belief on it, and whatever.
But even then, one could consider prayer a sort of meditation where you're really searching your own mind.
Which, yeah, honestly, that's the way I see prayer anyway.
Yeah, and that can be useful.
Unless you come out of prayer and like, God told me to burn this building down.
Guess I gotta kill my kids.
Right, exactly.
But all of it could be...
I just asked if I should get him a cell phone, and he said murder.
Gotta chop their feet off.
Yeah. Some people pray, some people have schizophrenia.
But like she said, all of it can be useful. So we're into it. And I really like the last one, which is actually make sure you follow through.
Yeah.
If you're like, if you do this, this happens.
Right.
If they do that, you have to make that happen.
And that's just like one of those things, like, if, like as a parent, being consistency and saying and doing being the same thing.
Yeah.
Like that's just great advice, honestly.
Yeah. Back to the old point,
Yeah.
When I was told I was going to get my ass kicked.
You did.
I did, in fact.
Yep.
And then sometimes...
follow through.
And then sometimes, just for, fun, I would just get my ass kicked randomly.
Just to keep it,
So then I was always...
So really, your father was an excellent role model.
I mean, he taught me how to take a punch.
Yeah.
I take a punch real well.
I wish I knew how. I don't know if I take a punch well. I've gotten in plenty of physical altercations, mostly with my brother. Mm-hmm. But it was never punching.
Yeah, it would be weird if you had to punch your sister.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
He had a scar on his face from my fingernail for a while because I clawed him, and I've had bruises from him. Mm-hmm. But I think we've bitten each other, too.
Of course.
Yeah, siblings.
Yeah.
Weird. My parents had a passive way of dealing with arguments. My dad would just be sitting reading a newspaper. My brother and I would be, screaming at each other and rolling on the floor. And
now you love each other.
Love the fuck out of each other.
See?
Yeah.
It worked.
Part of my being late today was helping my brother pick out a Christmas present for my mom, too.
Don't tell her.
I won't.
This will come out after Christmas anyway.
Yeah, he came downstairs. He's like, we gotta talk about secrets. I'm like, okay. We're in our 30s. I love him so much, though. Joe and I will always be 12-year-olds together, no matter what age we are. We're gonna be 60-year-old people acting like 12-year-olds only when we're together. He's like, come upstairs. I have to talk about secrets.
So we're on to the 5th video. Is it okay for kids to dress up for Halloween? And we're about halfway through these videos, so I was feeling pretty good.
Yep.
Kirk says, obviously millions of kids do it every year, and even Kirk did it when he was a terrible little atheist child.
Yeah, he's really embarrassed about his atheist past.
But he understands the concern with the celebration of Halloween, and it's around, death and darkness, and he even mentions the occult practices that happen around Halloween that he made up in his Jesus-addled brain.
Yeah, he still believes in the satanic panic ideas.
He really does.
Yeah, that's not real.
That's not a thing.
I'm not saying it's never happened. I'm saying it is not a common thing.
Right. People don't go out on Halloween and do occultic practices.
Nobody is sacrificing animals or murdering infants for their blood, sacrifices.
But he also points out that we dress up for all sorts of things.
Yeah.
So it's not so bad to dress up for just one more.
And now we know he has acid wash jeans because he talks about dressing up for like an 80s, throwback party. Mm-hmm. I wonder how much of his clothes from growing pains he still has.
All of them.
He probably still fits in them, too.
That's what I was thinking.
He's a very small person.
He's a very small fella. So he says as long as your kids aren't dressing up as a serial killer or a terrorist or a rapist or something, he doesn't really see the big deal.
What would a rapist costume be?
I don't know, but I don't like it.
I don't like it. Did he say rapist?
No.
Oh, okay, cool. I'm like, I don't remember
Just added
saying
that one in.
But, what would it be? I guess Trump?
Let's see. Yeah, judge's robes.
Priest.
Priest. Oh, God.
People are like, oh, you're a priest. I'm a rapist.
Awful. Don't ever dress up as a rapist for Halloween.
Please don't. No. Unforgivable.
In fact, I would much rather you dress up as a serial killer.
I'd rather you dress up as one than be one, though. So if it's between the two options.
If that's what it takes to get it out of your system,
right,
I will tentatively be okay with it.
Did you ever see that Saturday Night Live episode? Yeah, John Hamm was the host, and it was like a Halloween one, and he answers the door to Will Forte, and Will Forte he's kind of dressed up. He looks like a creep from the 80s. He has that flesh tone members only jacket, like the really large glasses or whatever.
His hair slicked down.
Right, and he's trick or treat or whatever, and John Hamm's like, aren't you a little old for this? He's like, yeah, I know, it's kind of weird, but, I'm new to the neighborhood. I thought this would be kind of a funny way to get to know people, blah, blah, blah. He's like, well, okay, well, whatever. What are you dressed up as? And he goes, I am a sex offender.
Oh, but he's...
Yeah. So he finds a way to circumvent having to...
actually say it, but actually still tell everyone.
But actually, yeah. And he's like, wait, are you an actual... sex offender? Is that your costume? It's like, oh no. But I am a sex offender. it's hilarious, and it's very well done. We can watch a clip later. Go on.
Kirk also goes on to give a bit of history about Halloween, and basically, according to him, it's based on or named after a holiday about honoring saints that have passed. So that's good.
That's All Saints Day. All Hallows Eve is the day before, which is so it's basically like Christmas Eve.
Right.
Because everything has to go back to Christmas.
But he also says, be aware that celebrating the dead can sometimes lead to celebrating death. And he once again references the wickedness that happens on Halloween, specifically that they need to pray against.
Yes. He's very wrong in this episode.
Yeah. None of this is true,
He's right about being, yes, it is okay for your kids to dress up for Halloween. I'm glad that that's the conclusion. Mm-hmm. But in the meantime, the history that he has for Halloween is just very, very false.
Just those Satan guys are hanging out, they're ready to do wickedness, and we gotta pray against them on Halloween. It's like, that's not...
It's like, he keeps talking about people celebrating death. I'm like, nobody's celebrating death, brother. Yeah.
We're just honoring the in Mexican culture.
Is that what he thinks about Dias de los Muertos?
Like, Grandma's dead. Fuck you, I win.
Can't wait to die. Death is the best.
Imagine if that's what it's like.
Oh my god, I want to throw a Death is the Best party.
Like someone's died, and you're like, I told you I'd live longer than you.
Fucking suck it. Yeah.
Which I'm sure does happen. To occasional people.
There's some people who deserve to die.
I'm sure there are Mexicans and or other people who are celebrating Dia de los Muertos who are
just so grateful that Uncle Jerry doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Or just rubbing it into a rival or enemy they had.
Right.
Be like,
I'm gonna dress up like you for Dia de los Muertos.
So, Kirk also goes on further, and he says that Reformation Day, the day that Martin Luther nailed his, 96 theses to the church door, it's a major moment in Christian history.
Yeah.
Was also October 31st. So every year, Kirk throws a Reformation Day party instead. And so he dresses up in a Scottish kilt, and he does a truly terrible Scottish accent.
I was gonna say, do you want to try to do it?
His version?
Either one.
Oh.
I want to see who's worse at Scottish accents.
And see, that's what I was going to say. This is coming from me, who is notoriously terrible at accents.
But it's also one of my favorite things that you do. I just need you to know that.
But yeah, Kirk's is, he just says, would you like some, damn it.
I can't do Scottish whatsoever,
No, me
so I
neither.
am not judging you.
But his version is like, would you like some haggis?
Yeah.
I've got haggis and bagpipes.
Yeah, haggis.
I wear my kilt,
Yeah.
and I've got haggis.
Again, he just lists Scottish things. He likes to list things.
Yes.
I know a lot about this. Here's the things I know.
So,
Oh,
think
God.
about...
Can you imagine how... Oh, my God, that party must be a fucking nightmare to be a part of. Him running around doing a terrible Scottish accent in a kilt.
It is
and-
no more than his family and his extended family.
You're probably right. It's probably just like Saving Christmas
Maybe
with the
a
amount
coworker.
of people.
Yeah. Maybe it's like one coworker who
Yeah.
hasn't yet, they're like new to the company
Right.
or whatever.
Every year there's one coworker who never returns again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because he like, they're new and he brings them in and they're like, okay, sure, a party with my boss. That sounds okay. Maybe he'll get drunk and it'll be funny.
Also, do they only eat Scottish food? Because that would be rough too.
I know.
It
Haggis,
is rough on the insides.
haggis is not, I haven't had it, but
I've never
oh
had
boy.
it, but it sounds terrible.
I don't want to. And so Kirk says, you should think about maybe a Reformation Day party every year. And he also says, talk to your kids about what you think about Halloween. Because it's not so bad to celebrate something if you're aware to stay away from the bad parts, like
Mhm.
Satan and celebrating death, apparently.
Right.
He also says, basically, you can use the day to remind your kids that they're going to die unless they decide to believe in Jesus.
Yeah, great opportunity.
Just a great opportunity to scare your kids into
He doesn't
accepting
say
what
that,
Jesus
but yes, Josh. I can think
It's the
that's the
same-
subtext.
It's the same way as in Way of the Master
I
when
know,
he's
you're
like,
right.
you can't just run to the streets and say, the world is ending, you're gonna die in your sins. Even though it's what he literally believes.
Right,
Like,
right.
He doesn't say that,
Yeah,
but he believes that.
absolutely correct. But again, I'm impressed with how often his advice involves actually talking to your children.
Mhm.
I'm impressed by that.
Yeah.
It seems unexpected to me.
Now I'm curious what his opinion would be on kids being exposed to homosexuality.
Oh, I would
Because I bet it's
love-
not going to be talk to your kids. I bet it's going to be,
Right, abstinence only training.
Right.
Yeah,
be like, homosexuals don't exist, and if they do, they are sinful,
yeah.
and you're supposed to go out and save them.
You're putting a very wet blanket on this whole.
I'm just
You're
saying.
trying to feel good about him, but I don't want to know what he
I like
thinks
to
about
cut through the
homosexuality.
bullshit.
I know.
He wants you to hit your kids
I'm trying
with
to find
a
a
belt.
silver lining. God damn it!
He wants you to hit your kids with a structure to it, and he wants you to scare your kids into believing what you do.
There's a lot of subtext that you are reading into.
I'm not reading
You're
into it.
creating that.
I'm not creating it.
You
It's
didn't-
just actually true. He's the one who mentions, in this video, he says, you're gonna die unless you believe in Jesus. All I did was take it to the next part of the sentence.
And homosexuals don't exist.
No, not that part. That's me. That is me
I
extrapolating.
know.
But I'm saying he wants you to remind your kids that there's a terrible fate awaiting for them unless you scare them into believing what you do.
Yep.
Because there's no reason to talk about hell and stuff unless you're trying to scare someone.
Yeah, at least this is not new information for us, because like we
Right.
said, we've already watched Way of the Master.
Right.
We know how he feels about these
Right.
things, so...
Like, if you wanted to present your religion without the fear, you
Uh-huh.
wouldn't mention hell at all.
Right.
And it would also probably wouldn't be as effective, which is why they do it.
I know, it's why they invented hell.
It's just one of those things.
Yeah.
Video the 6th. Why should Christians vote? And this was the one I cared the least about.
I don't remember it, so I guess me neither.
But let's get wise with Kirk and his smirk. He compares politics to a dirty diaper. Leaving it alone is not only going to make it worse. So then it's time for Kirk History Corner. Where did the idea of voting for our leaders come from? Go on. Take a guess. Take a guess.
Ooh. Greece?
No. Greece. The Old Testament, you sucker.
Wow, I did not even
You thought Kirk wasn't going to tie us back into the Bible?
I didn't know that. This is brand new information to me.
So Moses told the people that they shall choose able men from their own people and place them over thousands, over hundreds, 50s, and 10s, so that they could be their rulers.
Mhm.
And of course, as we know, no one did it before Moses.
Democracy is from the Bible.
So that's where the idea came from. And then he follows through with a bunch of quotes, and boy, did I not give a shit. I didn't write it down, because who cares?
Yeah.
But essentially he tells us that God's formula is for us to elect our own leaders. And if we as Christians choose not to vote, then we will go back to the old pagan ways of might makes right. But if we all elect people of character and faith and truth, then we can expect blessings. So
I really want to know. He has to be a Republican, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So this is all nonsense because what he says and what he does is going to be the opposite.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Like, do we know that? No. But just like me extrapolating.
Right.
Yes.
That's just me preparing myself for being disappointed in humans.
Right. But he wants us to engage in the gift from heaven that is our form of government so that we can stave off the disintegration of our culture. Someone's values will rule, he warns. And if it's not ours, the good guy Christians, then it'll be the not good guy not Christians. And it's important for the future and our sacred duty to vote.
Yep.
So this is one of those things where everything he says is nonsense, but I agree with him at the end, which is vote.
I completely agree with him at the end.
Right.
But also, it's like, I couldn't not think about whether or not he supports Trump.
Oh, he absolutely.
I don't know.
Supports Trump specifically? Maybe not.
Just specifically Trump.
Does he support the people who help support Trump?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I agree. Yes, I don't think there's a question there.
Mm-hmm.
But I have a very hard time understanding the mentality of someone who is super staunch Christian, like him, and like a lot of people, who ostensibly, like, they're supposed to be voting
people
for someone that
character?
the character thing, moral, ethics. And granted, I disagree with their idea of moral. Like, we have a different idea of moral. But I also understand that just because we have a different belief or whatever,
right.
I also want to elect somebody who is trustworthy and makes good, kind decisions and is, thoughtful and whatever. There's not one single positive attribute in Trump.
Yeah.
Not
There's
a single
nothing good about him. Yeah.
Nothing he says, nothing he does ever has been ethical or moral from anybody's point of view. Mm-hmm. So I have a hard time with people who are like staunch Christians being supportive of Trump because he's clearly the least ethical president we've ever had to an nth degree.
Right.
To a degree that I want to believe cannot be surpassed.
Right.
I don't know. I'm fascinated by it.
But at the same time, you have to realize 80% of the evangelical vote went to Trump.
I know.
80% of it.
It's fucking weird. I just want to understand. That's it. I just want to understand. I don't know.
And like, one could argue that they just really hated Hillary.
Right.
Which,
I didn't like Hillary either. No, I know. I didn't vote for her.
I didn't vote for her at all.
Yeah, I mean, I voted for her against Trump, but she was not my original pick. And
so
she's not the woman, I didn't want her to be the first woman president.
Well, good.
I know. For several reasons. One, a very selfish one, being that we share a name, and I did not want to be tied to. I didn't want to be tied to that. I already have I know a Republican because of the way they react to my name when they find out my name. If they're like, oh, that's unfortunate. Just like, fuck off.
Like it's a name.
Fuck off. First of all, I was born significantly before she was anywhere
a real element, right.
Yeah. Also, I'm named after a man, Sir Edmund Hillary, who's amazing.
But yeah, so 80% of the vote. It's very possible, actually, that Kirk is one of those votes.
Yeah.
So, and I'm with you. I don't necessarily care that we disagree about what moral is.
Right.
But you cannot make a case that guy is a representative of your moral system. And if you do make that case, you are a shitty person.
Yeah. If you think if he represents your viewpoints, you are, in your beliefs, Satan.
Right. You are the Antichrist.
You are a demon.
Because I can tell you one thing Trump absolutely does not give a shit about: your religion and your religious beliefs.
Or a single other human being who's alive.
Or a single other human being. Okay, let's move on to number 7. Is it okay to doubt God? So Kirk tells us that this is a really interesting question. Because he thinks that what people are really saying is that there are times when people wonder if this he kind of gestures to say, what they believe is all real. And Kirk reflects on his own upbringing as an atheist, when he was taught to believe, to have faith that God didn't exist. And, I can't vouch for how he was brought up, but I doubt it. Yeah. That doesn't sound right.
Yeah, he says he was raised to be I feel like I'm using the word staunch a lot.
Maybe.
That's not normal. I feel like he said he's like raised to be a staunch atheist. Like they believed hard in atheism. I'm like, I don't think that's a thing.
Yeah, I mean, like, could it happen? Yes.
Yeah.
Is it likely, especially in the 80s when he was raised? No.
There was one girl in my class growing up in like 5th grade who because of her religious beliefs, wasn't allowed to attend school during Christmas celebration. Like, if they're doing anything Christmassy, then she couldn't even be in the class or something like that. Yeah. I can't remember if her parents were atheists or if they were like the kind of Christians who were against Christmas celebration. Mm-hmm.
But the point is, people who raise their kids non-religious tend not to be like, no, you have to believe that you're non-religious. There is no God. You have to accept it. That doesn't usually.
No.
That's not usually the case.
They're the extremes.
That's
an extreme. They're the example, not the rule.
Good for him anyway, because Kirk realized it took more faith to not believe in God than it did to just do so.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense.
Well, let me tell you how he thinks it makes sense.
Go on.
Because he can look around and he can see what God has made. Everything is so amazing and beautiful. The sky, the stars, the roses in his garden, the birth of his children.
Yeah. These
are literally things, again, he lists.
Lists. That should have been part of my one sentence.
Lists.
Yeah.
Whole thing. It's like, and all of those things wouldn't be possible without God, Dadoy. But he's gotten distracted, so let's get back to the point.
He's gotten distracted.
Yes.
Yeah, I know, he starts doing that thing where he looks around and names what he sees again. It's like Steve Carell and Anchorman. I love lamp.
I love
floor.
Dog.
Yeah. Sky.
So,
fire.
Let's get Kirk back on point. Many people doubt God when things in life seem to not line up with what they believe to be the character of God. Why do bad things happen to good people? Even though I prayed about this, something else happened, etc.
Yeah.
So, he goes on to list people who also doubted God, but were excellent warriors for the faith.
Yeah, he lists people, but he calls them famous people. He's like, let's look at the famous people who doubted God. And then he only names people from the Bible.
Yeah, because
I thought he was going to be like Oprah.
No, he wants to name people who ultimately served God's purposes.
Right.
And to be honest, while he was going through this, I got distracted and started working on my D&D campaign.
I think I was doing my my morning face routine.
Yeah. But when he's eventually done talking about Abraham and Paul and how they were used for the glory of God despite their doubts, he talks about how doubting is not the same as unbelief. The Bible says, do not have the wicked heart of unbelief. Whoops. Because he says unbelief is the settled condition of not believing in God, rather than the honest and sincere questioning of God from our limited mortal vantage point.
All right.
Then he quotes a verse about dieting.
Dieting?
My bad, I messed up. Then he quotes a verse about not doubting. So, no, he doesn't want us to.
Do you think there's a quote in the Bible about dieting?
Unlikely, but everyone always has a quote for everything.
Yeah. Sorry, distracted.
So he equal parts says doubting is not the same as not believing, but then or unbelief, and then he quotes a verse in the Bible that says, don't doubt.
I really did not pay attention to this.
No, I know, but it was just really confusing, and I think he's also confused, but he tries to break it down.
I think he's also confused.
He tries to break it down. He says that the key is this. Understand that God gives you faith, and if you have faith in God and not a settled rejection of him, ask him to help you in your doubt. And he says Kirk has done that, and it's helped him out because he's a naturally skeptical person. He literally says it. And I was like, no, come on. Oh, man.
He hasn't met us.
Oh, boy. He then goes on to recommend books, including the one that made him the bizarre zealot that he is today.
Which one's that?
I don't know. I didn't remember the name of it. I'm not going to recommend the books to our audience.
Well, I wouldn't recommend it. I just want to know.
It was called...
Is this where he also mentions Ray Comfort in his book, too? Yeah. He
mentions 3 books. I think the one he said was It had cracking in it.
I don't know.
Cracking the nut of unbelief. I don't know.
I think I wasn't listening, and then I heard Ray Comfort, and my ears perked.
Yeah. But the video ultimately ends with Kirk praying with us, the audience, and I turned it off. Because fuck that.
Yep. Nope. Next.
Because I wanted to move on to number 8. Kirk shares details on his earliest memories with Chelsea.
Yeah, I enjoyed this.
I was worn down, man. Do you want to go through this one?
No.
Okay. There's only 15 minutes of videos to watch left, and I'm exhausted by them.
I know.
I'm so tired.
I actually really was. I was multitasking while quote-unquote watching, mostly listening. Because there's no real reason to watch it. Nothing's happening.
Yeah.
I only watched the ones where the dogs were there because I like to see what the dogs were up to. Sometimes the dachshund was just rolling around on the grass in the background, and it gave me such joy.
So this whole entire video is about the early memories that he has with his now wife. And we begin with their meeting on Growing Pains, the set of Growing Pains.
Yeah.
But one story that he'll never forget is when he first asked her out on a date. He says he was so nervous, and he asked her to go get a mud pie with him. And he does his awkward rendition of his also awkward phone call.
Yeah.
It's fair. He's somewhat self-deprecating. He's like, hey, I was just wondering if you...
No, I actually thought that was kind of cute.
Might want to go with me and some
this
friends.
This is like peak fame for him.
Yeah.
Like, he was very well known
right.
in the 80s.
And
also, do you remember where it was that he invited her? Because it was Red Robin, which I think is a fast food chain.
It sounds like it was a different place, though.
Okay, so it's like maybe a place called Red Robin, but it's not like the chain burger. But he said, like, go get burgers at Red Robin. I'm like,
it could be.
That's a weird first date. Also, if you're famous and making a lot of money and trying to show off and, like, get a girl like, yeah, you don't take her to McDonald's, you know?
You know, he wanted he wanted a mud pie.
It worked.
Maybe he was trying to seem relatable and normal.
Maybe that's it. I mean, I'm not opposed to it. I like a good burger.
Yeah, I love a burger. I have never been to a Red Robin. I want to.
I think there's one in Georgia somewhere, but I've heard it's really good.
I know, that's where I want to go.
Let's go hunt one down.
Okay.
Not
Red Robin trip.
Yeah!
So, he told her that a bunch of his friends would be there, and it was a bunch of people, so if she wanted to come along to the mud pie party, come along. Except...
How lame do his friends sound?
Except that he hadn't talked to his friends first about going out.
Right.
So, as soon as she agreed, he called all of his friends and tried to rope them in.
Again, I thought this was really cute. It's a cute story.
It's kind of a cute story.
Yeah.
And none of them either could or would go to the thing with him. So it wound up just being the two of them, which made it weirder, obviously, at first.
Probably, because she's like, you said there were people here. At least it wasn't at his house. Like, come over, I'm having a party, and then, like, it's just him.
But apparently it was so much fun. They had so much fun.
All the fun they had was about eating pie.
Mm-hmm.
How much fun can you have eating pie?
I mean, it depends on the pie.
I just picture, like, it's like those stock pictures of, like, women eating salads and laughing. just like just holding bites of pie in the air and laughing and laughing.
Cherry tomatoes are hilarious. They have a very acidic wit. I saw the tomato joke today.
Shut up. Get the fuck out.
Alright, I'm off the show. Hillary's fired me.
I also get heartburn from tomatoes, so that was a personal attack.
Okay. He talks about then how they went to a Michael W. Smith concert, and my only question about that is how did this relationship survive past that point?
Damn fine question. Damn fine. They're clearly meant for each other, because if that didn't turn either of them away, then there's nobody better suited.
And then there's another story, you might remember this one, where Kirk teamed up with her dad to plan a surprise trip. Do you want to tell me the story?
Oh gosh, honestly, this was kind of embarrassing because of how proud he was of this surprise that he planned, and he goes into all the details, and it ends up being a very boring surprise.
Yes.
Basically, he and her father worked together to surprise her with Kirk. Basically, her family's in New York. She's from New York. He's from New York. They were both living in California, and she was visiting her family. And so her and her family went out to dinner one night, and Kirk was there, but in another part of the restaurant, called her from the other room at the restaurant to say that he missed her and blah, 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 and he just can't wait for her to come home, blah, blah, blah. All the while, he was just around the corner. The Kirk smirk is strong in this one. Sent her flowers, and had the waiter tell her that it was from the guy across the room. And she turned and it was him, and they had a great night.
She turned expecting that she was going to have to kindly turn someone down.
Right.
He's like, oh, thanks for the flowers, but obviously...
He's like, but it was me! Just me waving from over there, and he waves. Go, good one, Kirk.
And of course, that's when he decided...
No one's done that kind of surprise before.
And those were the moments when he decided that he needed to marry her. And honestly, who fucking cares, Kirk? Fuck off.
No, I know. I'm just like, this is not a special story.
I chose this one for you. Because I know that you are interested in Kirk's, personal life. Well,
yeah, I am more, I'm interested in everybody's personal life, honestly.
So I wanted you to watch this video because I thought you might care.
I did.
Yeah, no, I know. You cared more than me. I literally...
You want to know, too? When I saw that it was on the list, I'm like, oh, you did that for me.
Yay, you know.
I did know.
Alright, so let's get through the last video. It's number 9.
Mm-hmm.
Number 9. Number 9. Number 9.
I don't know what you're doing right now. Is
The
that
Beatles song, Revolution 9.
What?
The Beatles have a song called Revolution 9.
I don't know that Beatles song.
Oh, it starts with that. Number 9. Number 9. Number 9. It's like a motif through the whole album. It's
I feel weird that I don't know that song. I know a lot of Beatles.
But this video is the scene in Fireproof that changed Kirk's life.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a preview.
I was going to say, it's kind of like, not foreshadowing, but this is
a call forward.
No.
It is, though.
It is now. It's now a call forward.
But yeah, it's
preview. It's like a preview of coming events.
Yep. But he talks about his dog for a minute before we get to the real point.
Mm.
He starts with, how do you deal with anger, especially in a marriage? And he relates this back to a scene in Fireproof, where his character is typically calm, cool, and collected, even when he's fighting fires. But when he fought with his wife in the movie, he was filled with an anger and a rage that was uncontainable.
Right.
And he says the first several takes were not good enough for the director, who's the same guy who did Facing the Giants.
Oh!
Mm-hmm.
That's actually great news. That is not good news, judging by your face. I am wrong.
I have seen Fireproof. I can tell you.
You can tell me?
I can tell you
Uh-huh.
that Facing the Giants might have been
his only good one?
a standout.
Alright, well that's disappointing to hear, but go on.
But it's the same director.
Mm-hmm.
And they weren't good enough for that guy. Because while we do know, the guy knows acting. Like, he's a decent actor himself.
True. Do you think it's because this doesn't star him and instead it stars Kirk Cameron?
Honestly, the premise of Fireproof is absurd. You'll see.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll get there.
We'll all see.
But Kirk wasn't able to get angry enough for the scene. He was eventually told by the director that he needs to let go of that self-control that he has with his real wife because he needs to release this anger in the scene for the movie.
Right.
And Kirk realizes, like, oh yeah, this caused me some reflection.
Mm-hmm.
Because he'd spent so much time in his many years in his marriage trying to keep all of his anger suppressed.
Yeah.
That he couldn't even properly perform for the movie.
I love it because, like, I thought he was gonna talk about how it's hard for him because he has self-control and he knows he's emotionally mature enough to be able to talk about things and talk things out, but instead it sounds like he's a rager.
That's 100% what I took.
Yeah, I'm just like, it sounds like he is bottling up a lot of rage. I'm like, how is this gonna come out?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Because, like, I often tell people,
Yeah.
if we're talking about my emotional state,
Yeah.
I can feel two emotions, normal and angry,
Yeah.
but I don't feel angry very often.
Yeah.
It's really the only thing that registers for me.
Right.
Kirk makes it sound like he is just, he's on fire on the inside.
Right. It has been for years. Like,
For, like, the
I'm pretty sure
entirety
that's how
of
you
his
get
marriage.
cancer.
Yeah. It's like, are you sure you should be married if you're this angry all the time?
Yeah, what? Does she know?
She does now.
Yeah, and like, does she watch it? She's like, what are you angry about? He's like, I can't tell you. Storms off.
Like, I'm not saying, if you've had a fight, if you've ever been angry in your marriage, you should get a divorce.
No.
I'm just saying he makes it sound like he needs a divorce.
Right.
Because the way he talks about how angry he is and how he's just always got a cap on it
Right.
makes it sound very unhealthy.
It does. Yeah, I agree. That's exactly how I interpreted it.
Yeah. Because I'm not trying to be unfair. He just makes it sound like he is pissed constantly.
Yeah.
He's like, man, if he was up to me, I'd just kill them all. It's like, that's not.
I think I'm afraid of Kirk Cameron.
But anyway, he moves on and he says he even prayed to God on the set of the movie to help him get rid of his self-control temporarily so that he could properly play the part. And it was scary for him because he did eventually do it. He did eventually nail it, but he had never reached that level of anger before.
Then he murdered his wife.
This is his confession
We haven't
tape.
seen her in a very long time.
But he says it's just unbridled and unchecked anger. And they chose to use that take because that was what so many couples do experience. He goes on to say that ever since then, this is how it changed his life.
Mm-hmm.
Kirk has had to be careful about his own anger because that was the day that he raised his own personal anger ceiling. And so if you struggle with anger and you have regrets about how you express yourself to your wife or your kids, just ask God for forgiveness. And when Kirk gets upset, apparently again, he has to actually have a struggle with this now because
now he's capable of even more violence.
Now he's capable of at least violence in his emotions.
Right.
And
this is the first one I'm like, oh, this isn't good advice. No, you need to talk this out.
You need to talk to a therapist.
You do not need to put your cap on tighter. You need to release those bubbles.
Right.
Yeah.
But what we learned about Kirk is he's got a lot of angry emotions underneath. And he's just constantly holding them down.
Yeah. Another cry for help from our friend, Kirk Cameron.
Yeah. This is what I was saying. Like,
yeah.
I'm not saying I've never been angry.
Right.
I'm saying that I am not in a state where I'm constantly trying not to be angry.
Right.
I'm just usually not
You're
angry.
not the Hulk.
Right. Yeah, Kirk Cameron has Bruce Banner syndrome.
Yeah.
And he really needs to talk to somebody about it.
He really does.
But
not God. He needs a therapist.
You know, his solution is when he gets really upset, he goes for a walk, he clears his head, and he prays to God that God will make him quick to listen and slow to speak, so he can figure out how he needs to resolve the conflicts.
That's good. That's a good way to deal with anger.
That is a good way to deal with anger. But
you do need to figure out what it is that's making you so angry and maybe fix that.
Yeah.
Yeah. The anger's not the problem, so then it's a...
I'm really glad that you interpreted this the same way as me.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, like, maybe I'm being unreasonable. No, he sounds like he's a rage beast.
Yeah,
he really needs to talk to a professional. Not your minister.
Right.
Not God.
Right. He needs to find a way to express himself in an adult way.
Yeah, you need to actually go to a professional who can help you with that. Because you won't be so angry if you just talk to a pro.
It's true.
Like, over time, not right away.
This is our advice to you, audience.
Yes. If
this is something you struggle with, there are ways to help yourself.
Yeah. If you have struggles, talk to a professional.
Don't kill your wife.
Don't kill anybody.
Oh, all right. If you want to throw that blanket statement out there.
But that's the end. Trust in Jesus. Good night. We're done with the campfire.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the best and the worst.
Oh, this is easy.
Yeah.
Best. Dogs. There is a dog named Bodhi, and there is a dog named Lila, and they are the greatest thing that's ever happened in a Kirk Cameron thing.
Mm-hmm. And what's the
worst is my inability to pet Bodhi and Lila.
It was easy for you.
Yeah.
Okay, so my best is going to be the fact that Kirk actually thinks you should talk to your kids sometimes.
Yeah.
As far as advice goes, especially about raising kids, that's some of the best ones.
Actually, I would recommend, this is an okay thing to listen to, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, or watch, whatever.
Take some of it with a grain of salt, because the worst...
Adjust for your own experience, but...
the worst is the part where Kirk thinks it's fine to hate your kids.
Yeah.
He doesn't say it.
He doesn't say it.
But we know...
Your worst is what you assume he's saying.
But is he not saying it? I
mean, not literally. It's hard to say. It's hard to say.
We'd have to read the book that he recommended.
Which I'm not going to do.
Right. But I can almost 100% guarantee.
Yeah.
That there is a part in there where it's okay to hit your kids.
Right.
And it's not.
No.
That's all.
Yeah.
I mean, as far as worst thing he's ever said goes, that's probably not it.
No, that doesn't even register.
But it's the worst thing in what we did today.
Correct.
So, let's talk about some things that might be like this. What should people watch that's not this?
Honestly, I struggle to think of anything that is like this, but also I'm not against people watching this. I think this is an okay thing to watch. If you're Christian or not, there's some good advice here.
Yeah, it's fine. I would recommend, since this is a special sort of level of bullshit, where it's just someone talking about stuff that comes to their mind, go, follow your favorite actor or singer or something on Instagram.
Also, there's tons of advice-type podcasts out there that are great.
Yeah, actually...
Anna Faris's.
Get a podcast from a therapist who can work through these issues from an actual professional.
There's actual professional, scientific, beneficial ones out there. There's also comedy ones, but they're also about, just talking shit out and giving advice and whatever.
Yeah, I don't know any of those podcasts by name. But yeah, so just go listen to a professional talk about these issues. And if you just want someone to talk about random bullshit, follow a YouTube vlog. I don't know.
There you go. There's some good ones out there. There's also insanity out there.
That's true.
Ooh-wee.
So now let's talk about what we're...
discerning. How about that? That's good advice, right?
Now let's talk about what we're doing next week.
Josh, this is very exciting. Next week, my best friend, Andrea, will be visiting our podcast.
That's right.
To discuss the movie Fireproof.
Finally. We're doing Fireproof.
Finally Fireproof.
We're closing Kirk Cameron month.
The final Kirk episode. For a
while.
Long time.
Yeah. Fireproof, if you don't know it, is a movie about firefighters. They fight fires, and Kirk Cameron's character is having trouble in his marriage. And he has to go on a...
We get to see the rage monster in action.
We get to see the rage monster in action. Let's remember that so we can see how angry.
Okay, yeah. I think we can remember that.
But I've seen this movie once before, maybe twice. You have not.
No.
Andrea has not?
I don't think she has.
Okay.
We can
so
ask
it'll be
her.
fun.
Yeah.
But we're going to do it next week. Get excited.
Get stoked, people.
And remember, if you like the show, please give us a 5-star review whenever podcast app or service you are using. And tell your friends about us any way you can because we need the publicity.
Yeah, we like people. We want more people.
And we also want more of those questions and comments you might have so that we can do a mailbag episode.
Keep them coming.
Keep them sent to us.
Yes.
That's josh@noahsnarkpodcast.com.
Yeah. I have an email on there too, but I don't think I've ever even looked at it.
I just use mine because it's easier.
Have you checked mine?
No.
I wonder if anybody's emailed me.
I don't think we put the address anywhere. So, unlikely. But it is just Hillary@noahsnarkpodcast.com. So.
Right. Hey, write me something. Maybe I'll see it. Maybe I'll remember.
And links to everything, including our social media and stuff, is in the description of this episode.
Right.
And you can go to the website from that description as well.
Cool.
But as always, thanks for listening.
Thank you.
We're looking so forward to Fireproof.
Everything's happening. It's all exciting.
And bye.
Bye.